Hi guys, I'm Van Orn and this is another Dragonheir Silence God video. Today we're back to the Vortex because this week is melee week. We can bring our Dauntless melee champions mainly and have a look at what combination is more effective on the boss. I am quite blessed because I have a lot of Dauntless champions. I'm only missing Zhenka and Tarivol. Zhenka being melee would have been nice for this test. Tarivol would be nice for my comp baseline all the time. I'm maybe gonna pull them considering that I'm getting all the Dauntless in the game at the moment. But nevertheless, I thought this week would be a good opportunity for me to try to compare champions and see what are the damage output and what are the expectation you can set for yourself if you don't have exactly the same lines that I'm using. And so I wanted to test all of them. Unfortunately, I'm running a bit short of epic scrolls, so I've not been able to compare Shagrol, which is an epic that most of you have. He does a good damage. I've never really been able to use him, and that's why he's not a scroll. We're not going to see him, but I think we can, with a certain degree, try to imagine what will be its damage output. So let's jump into the Vortex. Let's have a look at what is my baseline for this week with the melee champion, and then start comparing with other champions that I have. So as you can see, this week my score is usually around 42 million, 42.1 when I push the best one. 41 is acceptable for me. I'm not trying to compete for the ranking. My server, it's crazy. I think that even with 70, 80 million, you're probably going to fall off from the top 100. So I'm not trying to push too much on that. But as I said before, this week we have this rules basically where the boss takes 35% more damage from the melee unit. And when a light with shield is attacked, they deal damage equal to 30% of consumed shield to the attacker. So it's perfect for my comp because I'm running shield from Nathaniel. And I'm running Dauntless team, which are good melee champions. So let's jump into it, and I can show you what is my comp, the gear, and everything. And we can have a look at the gear of all the combination of champions that I'm gonna move in and out. And then we're gonna have a look at the screenshots of the scores and try to draw some conclusion from that. This is my lineup for the usual run. I'm using Furbat with the protection set and the Scarab Amulet, and Nathaniel with the Crown and Clean. I know this is a difficult thing, so that just for a lot of you, but I have another video out where I've tested all the combination for the artifacts on these champions. And for me, putting the Crown and Clean on Nathaniel was by far the best result. I know that you don't usually build Nathaniel with accuracy, and the logical placement will be Furbat if you're using it on a single hit. But I found out that if I use the Crown and Clean on Furbat, my rounds are way shorter because that extra defense and the shield that cuts in when he falls low on HP on that lightning strike cut the runs few rounds shorter, and that means a lot of millions less of damage for this composition specifically. Nathaniel is there mostly to remove the decreased defense, place the increased defense on us, and help with the shield. And I can push its its enlightenment quite high. Nevertheless, is almost 350, over 350. So it's a decent sized shield nevertheless. So I can push some accuracy on him and get the Crown and Clean. So he comes in and does even more function at once. And this frees me up 3 spots where I can print 3 damage dealer. I know a lot of you run similar comps. They might put the Crown and Clean on someone like Nimbus. I've compared before the damage, as I said. I have a full video talking about this, so I'm gonna pin it up below if you're interested in seeing the result and testing the artifacts combinations on different champions. Go have a look at that one. I've put a lot of work on doing that video, so if you're interested, definitely give it a go. So let's assume that my decisions here are not completely foolish. And let's have a look at the other champions. We're going to have a look at Suta. Suta is my main DPS. She's built with high crit rate. She has a passive where she basically needs only 70% basically on every skills. And she has high attack and a very high crit damage. She does a lot of damage, and I'm using the Silver Star Horseshoe on her that give her 50% extra attack speed when she uses her ultimate. This increases even more her damage. I'm using Shelter over here with the Veil Ink, and he is built with the Abyssal Shadow set because his damage is going to be mostly from the Enlightenment. He has over 300 Enlightenment. It's not crazy high. It has a good attack, but it does a lot of damage. You will see in the results at the end. His damage is mostly from his ultimate and passive, where it basically triggers this Enlightenment damage from other champions, from other hits of other champions that count for him. And so you push his Enlightenment high on the chest and the positive rune, and you give him attack on the rest of the artifacts. You forget crit rate, forget crit damage, you just do that, and he's gonna do a lot of damage. The other damage dealer on my main comp, it's Ivelius, and Ivelius is built with no crit rate, no crit damage, high attack, decent Enlightenment, almost 300. I'm using the RP Nails to take more advantage of his passive when he basically triggered the extra hit when other champions are hitting. And he's built with the Inventor set with Enlightenment, Positive Rune, Enlightenment Chest with a triple roll attack, which is pretty sweet, and attack Negative Rune. As I said, high attack and high Enlightenment seems to work well on him. I've tested him in Inventor and in the Abyssal set. He seems to do more damage for me with the Inventor set. So this is what I've been pushing. Maybe it's because my stats are better on this one. Now, the other champions we're going to have a look and bring in for other simulation are going to be Garrett. Garrett, as you can see, it's not gear because when I'm going to test Garrett, I'm basically going to move 1-to-1 the gear that I have on Suta on him. That is not ideal because Garrett doesn't really need only 70% crit rate. He needs a full crit rate. But I don't have better gear for testing him. And he's also not scroll compared to Suta, which instead is scroll. So keep in mind that when you're going to see the result, he's not scroll and yet is going to be quite impressive. Probably the champion that surprised me the most about this patch. The next champion we're going to test is going to be Nimbus, which I have at 100, so he's over here. I've built him with the Wine of Dragon Blood as artifact, give him attack speed and an extra chance to crit. That attack speed is massive because it triggers more hits from his ultimate, which basically is gonna do more hits using depending on how much attack speed he has. I've built him with the Gambler set because it hits hard but not crazy hard, and I'm trying to use this max HP effect from the gear as much as possible to have as much damage as possible. It's not melee, is range, obviously. It's really not what we're looking at today. We're going to compare mostly Shelter, Suta, and Garrett. But having Nimbus test as well instead of Ivelius give you also a frame if you don't have Ivelius. I thought that will be useful for you, so I've tried to compare those comps as well and see which one performed better. Obviously, the result is already on screen. You've already seen that I do 42 millions with this comp, so that is going to be the best one. But we're going to see how far back we fall with the other comp. So, let me put up the run in the background, so while we're talking, you can see something happening in the background. But you've seen the positioning as well. I'm using Furbat center front, the two melee next to him. One range on the back next to Nathaniel, and Nathaniel close to everybody else to be able to remove the decreased defense and heal and place the shields and do all those amazing stuff that he does. Now, the other comps that we're going to have a look at are going to be the following. So in the first one, I've swapped out Ivelius and I put in Nimbus to see how much damage drop I will have by taking off one of my main enabler, if you want, or support. It's not really an enabler, I should say, but you get enabled by others, and its damage basically come from that. And by using Nimbus on the same comp in the gear you've seen before, the damage drop is about 6 million. As you can see, the time is similar. It's 6 minutes, 0.1 is where all my comps are dying. You saw that in the previous video about the gear as well. And 36 million, 0.2 6.5, with Nimbus doing 6.5 million, Shelter doing 14 million, and Suta doing 14 million as well. The damage drop is quite consistent. Hevelius adds a lot of damage, and basically the difference is all there. The damage from Nimbus, it's half of what Hevelius is bringing. Now, this doesn't mean it's a bad comp. 36 million is a more than respectable score, in my opinion. And if you have only one legendary, it's definitely interesting to being able to run a comp and score so high. So the next composition that we're going to compare is basically the same using Nimbus and Shelter. And we're going to use Garrett with the HP aura from Nathaniel. This has been done because Garrett is the only one that has a different aura that I can bring in. So I've wanted to test them before with the HP aura to compare it on the same frame of the other comps when I'm running the HP aura for my team. And this one, it's quite interesting because, as I said, Garrett is not scroll at all, and we only have a 3 million difference down. This is interesting because Nimbus and Shelter are doing pretty much the same damage that we've seen before, and the damage from Garrett is only 3 million less than what Suta will do. And I was expecting really a much higher difference because he's not scroll and he's not 100% crit rate when he should be to perform the best. And I found that really interesting. And so I ran the same comp with the crit damage aura, and the result, it's even closer because I'm doing 34.35 million damage. With Garrett, obviously bringing more damage from the entire comp. Now, I forgot to do the stats screenshots on this one. You only see the score. That's a shame. It's better me. I should do better on this next time. But the score, it's even closer. Remember, we did 36 million with Nimbus and Shelter. Kind of interesting that we are so close because, as I said, Garrett is really not geared to perform the best. It should be 100% crit rate. And it's not scroll. I will guess that if I'm building him completely, probably the damage will be even higher. And that makes me wonder if I should use him instead of Suta on my main comp. I don't have scroll for him at the moment. And investing even more on a damage dealer probably would not be the best choice for my account in this moment where we are about to get into the Otherworld exploration. And we're going to need to deal with a lot of different tasks, and the Vortex, yes, is important, but as I said, I cannot compete for the top 100, so as long as I'm staying between 100 and 300, my points are always going to be the same. Million more, million less is just really for my ego, it's not really for a score. And so I did the last test, and I didn't really know how to do this one because I wanted to try to bring all three my melee champion in the comp, using Furbat and Nathaniel. And it's a bit a silly placement because you kind of have to bring them all on the front line. And some of them are not going to be covered by Furbat healing. It's difficult to place them. I have to place Nathaniel in the center because it's the only way I have to have him take off the decreased defense from everybody. And the comp falls a lot short on time. But it's interesting to see that even in that situation with 3 melee on the front and Nathaniel and Furbuff to take them up, to pick them up and keep them alive, I've been able to do 30 million.4, which is way more than 25 million. So for most of you, it might be interesting to use this comp as well, even if it's not ideal. You might have, one of these two legendary, Garrett or Suta, or you might have Nashenka. She's amazing for this one as well. And you might have a Shelter and Shagrol. And you probably can consider to do a little bit less of this, I would imagine, being Shagrol not as good as Suta and Garrett, but not too far off, and most likely way above 25 million nevertheless. So I hope that this sort of experiment, trying to test the different lineup and champions, comparing the gear to mine, will give you a better idea of how far you can push your Dauntless Vortex team. Even if you have different lineup and different champions, pretty much you've seen what are the combination and alternative you can run. It's interesting for me to see these scores. It gives me a better understanding of where the champions are placed. And also remember that in this game, more than any other I've played so far, the interaction between champions is more important than the face value raw damage of in isolation of his champions. Like my comp that does 42 million, it's mainly because the many hits that I can get from Nimbus, the triggers that I can get from Evelius, and the amount of hits that Suta is doing. I am still not sure that running that comp with Garrett fully built will do more or less damage. I'm drawn to think that it will be very close, if not maybe a little bit better with Garrett, also using the crit damage aura. And this gave me some insight, and I hope it's been useful for you too. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. And if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm trying to push the 1,000 subscribers. We are getting there. We are about to the 700 now, 300 more to go. Let's give it a push. Let's get to that 1,000 sweet number. And I'm gonna see you soon with another video about Dragonheir Silence God.